Peace to the 12. Y'all see the title. India was black. And I mean exactly just that. In this video, like I do in all my other historical videos and geography videos, I'm going to go through books, dictionaries, etymological definitions. I'm going to get the scriptures, of course, sculptures, and some pictures. All right? So, and also, you know, I didn't know which artwork to use for my thumbnail. I made this one, and I made this one. I don't know which one I'm going to use, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, we're going to kick it off with this guy by the name of Godfrey Higgins. This is a so-called Caucasian man, at least he seems to be. His name is Godfrey Higgins. He was born in the 1700s. He was born in 1772, and he died on August 9th, 1833. Okay? So he was born in the 1700s, and he wrote a book called Anacalypsis. Anacalypsis. Okay? And it was obviously published after his death, which is common, especially in those time periods. But anyway, and also, of course, before I even start this, before you guys start to clacking in my comments, man, just watch the video, because I'm going to probably answer your question. You know, and if you're a troll or if you're a vampire, and then go ahead and click off the video, because this ain't for you anyway. But anyway, he wrote a book called Anacalypsis, right? Godfrey Higgins. And we're going to go to page 50 of Anacalypsis. And I'm going to go to the highlighted portions on all these books for sake of time. But you can pause it and read it on your own if you want. This PDF, this Anacalypsis PDF, is on the internet for free. So, just saying. But, let's go to it. This is page 50 of Anacalypsis. Highlighted portion. Children of Cush and the ancient Hindus, according to Strabo, differed in nothing from the Africans, but in the straightness and smoothness of their hair. So he was saying that the ancient Hindus had no difference in appearance from the Africans of so-called Africa, which means he was saying that they were so-called black. The only difference that they had was the straighter looking hair. Okay? And originally I was going to do a video on the Phoenicians, but I said I was going to go ahead and tackle this India thing first. But read on down. He says, we are told that the Phoenicians, like the Hindus, adored the sun and asserted water to be the first created things. Nor can be doubted the Syria, Samaria, and Phoenix were anciently people by a branch of the Indian stock. Okay? So if the Phoenicians, Syrians, Sumerians were of a branch from the Hindu stock, and he said that the ancient Hindus had black skin because they resembled the Africans except for their hair, that means that the Phoenicians were also so-called black, but I'm going to do a video on them at another time. But, and the Phoenicians were known in the Bible as the Canaanites. But, anyway, page 51. Here we see he admits that the ancient Phoenicians were Hindus. All right, once again, the ancient Hindus, according to Strabo, were not different at all from the Africans, which means what? Which means that India was black. But we're gonna keep going. We're gonna go down to here. It seems probable that the following may have been the real fact. That a race either of Negroes or blacks, but probably the former, came from India to the west, occupying or conquering and forming a kingdom of two banks on the Euphrates, that the eastern Ethiopia. So he's letting you know that a race of Negroes or blacks, you see how he did a differentiation between Negroes and blacks, just like it tells you in the Zondervan Compact Dictionary that Ham is the father of the dark races, not the Negroes. It says literally not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Libyans, and the Canaanites, as well as the Philistines, and someone probably I missed. Oh, and Ethiopians. So he also made this distinction between the so-called Negro and the other blacks. But nonetheless, either of Negroes or blacks, but probably the former came from India to the west. All right. Then he says they occupied places like Syria, Phoenicia, Arabia, and Egypt, that they or some tribe of them were the shepherd kings of Egypt. All right. So, and by the way, so that's already a first sign, but we're going to keep going to different books. There's more in this same book as well. But I just want to tell you guys, if I miss something that I have highlighted or read over something, it's because it's 3:30 in the morning. So I'm a little tired. I just wanted to get this video out here, man. It's about 90 slides. But anyway, same book, Anacalypsis, page 48. All right. Now this is where he's going to talk about the so-called Buddha, right? I'm going to actually read this whole portion. Mr. Wilford, in his treatise on Egypt and the Nile and the Asiatic researches, informs us that many very ancient statues of the god Buddha in India have crisp, curly hair with flat noses and thick lips, and adds, nor can it be reasonably doubted that a race of Negroes formerly had power and preeminence in India. So he's telling you flat out that there can be no reasonable doubt that there was a race of Negroes that had power and preeminence over India. You see that? Meaning what? That the India was black. All right. Now look at this. And I also, and by the way, he mentioned that the false idol Buddha. He mentioned Buddha, right? I actually have those statues in this video in later portions. But let's continue. Race of Negroes formerly had power and preeminence in India. This is confirmed by Mr. Maurice, who says the figures in the Hindu caverns are of a very different character from the present race of Hindus. So he's saying the ancient Hindus look like a completely different race than the present Hindus, so-called. Their countenances are broad and full, the nose flat, and the lips, particularly the underlip, remarkably thick. You know, I think I'm actually going to scroll down just to give you guys some pictures of the Buddha that he's talking about. All right, let's go down. This is what's known as the Black Buddha. You see the ears. You see the ears. You see the lips. You see the nose, the crisp hair. All right, the first Buddha was the so-called black man, the first statue, right? Now look, this is a picture of the Black Buddha that I just showed you, and this is a so-called African man. Look, they have the literal exact ears, the exact lips, the exact nose, and the exact eyes. All right. And this hairstyle, look at this. Look at this picture of this woman. Look at this picture of Buddha, right? Once again, same ears, lips, nose, eyes. Same thing, right? The hair. She has the hair. This hairstyle, by the way, is what's known as the Bantu knot. This hairstyle is known as the Bantu knot. We'll touch on the Bantu in this video as well later on, but I just want to show you guys the pictures. And this is a picture of a so-called black man in European art. And this is a picture of Buddha. See the hair? Okay. So now it's making sense, isn't it? Now it's making sense. All these different pictures of so-called Buddha. The original Buddha was wearing the hairstyle known today as the Bantu knots. Yeah, look at the resemblance. The ancient people of Asia were black. There are numerous Greek and Roman records about these Ethiopians/black people living from Africa to India. Buddha was not a fat white Asian man as we are taught today. Okay? So I just wanted to tell you that the original inhabitants of India were so-called black. And we're actually going to touch on the current inhabitants of India too, because they also have the so-called black complexion, and they're known as the Dravidians. But we will go into that later on. Now, back to where I was at, I just wanted to go ahead and show y'all them statues for the people that were going to be waiting, you know. Some people don't have the patience, so there you go. But, let's go back to reading what he said. Nor can it be reasonably doubted that a race of Negroes formerly had power and preeminence in India. This is confirmed by Mr. Maurice, who says the figures that in the Hindu caverns are of very different character from the present race of Hindus. Okay, now let's go to another page of the book, Anacalypsis, page 399. All right, where he states, Colonel Wilford says, also he tells about the ancient Egyptians and the Thebes were Negroes, that they were black with curly hair. So he's going into the Egyptians for that stupid-ass controversy about, oh, well, the original Egyptians, yeah, whatever, man. They already know anyway, but I did a video on the Egyptians already called Real Black Egyptians or something like that. Anyway, back to the highlighted portion, page 399 of Apocalypse. Colonel Wilford says, it cannot be reasonably doubted that a race of the Negroes had former preeminence over India. So he reinstates that. Thus, I account for the Negro Buddha and for the handsome, though black, Krishna. Okay? The Krishna is a deity that they still, a false deity at that, by the way, that they still worship over there in India, and he was originally depicted as black. Now let's go to another book by an author by the name of Gerald Massey, who was born in 1828. He was born in the 1800s, early 1800s. His name was Gerald Massey, and he wrote a book titled A Book of the Beginnings. A Book of the Beginnings. All right. This is page 18 of A Book of the Beginnings. We're going to go to the highlighted portion, of course. He says, the black race is the most ancient, and that Africa is the primordial home, right? Now, I've said this before, and I say it again. I've said it a million times, and I'm going to say it right now. All so-called black people do not come from Africa, but the original man was a so-called black man, what you would call a so-called black. But anyway, I've went over that before. But the black race is the most ancient, and that Africa is the primordial home. It is not necessary to show that the first colonizers of India were Negroes. So he's saying it's not necessary to show that the first colonizers of India were Negroes. So he's saying the same thing. But it is certain that the black Buddha of India was imaged in the Negroid type, in the black Negro god, whether called Buddha or Soot Nasi. And even now, soot is a term for blackening. Like when you clean a chimney, what happens? You get soot on you, which blackens your skin, or blackens the paint, or blackens whatever it's around, right? So Buddha was called Soot Nasi. We have a datum. They carry in their color the proof of their origin. The people who first fashioned and worshipped the divine image in the Negroid mode of humanity must, according to all knowledge of human nature, have been Negroes themselves. For the blackness is not merely mystical. The features and the hair of Buddha belong to the black race, and Nasi is the Negro name. Yeah, I went over that before. Like I showed you the statues, and you could tell that the Buddha, so-called Buddha statues were of black people. I just showed you them a while ago. Right? The genetics represented as Dea Motamami, the Diana of Ephesus, is found as a black figure, nor is the hue mystical only, for the features are as Negroid as were those of the black Isis in Egypt. So the black Isis in Egypt had Negroid features, and the Diana of Ephesus had Negroid features. Why is that? Because Diana of Ephesus, the so-called Greeks, the original Greeks, which were known as the Dorian Greeks, they were people of color. But I will do a video on the Greeks at another time. I'm doing videos on all these different peoples, man. I've already done, who have I done? So-called Native Americans, I've done that. The South Americans, I've done. The Egyptians, I'm working on one about the Phoenicians. I've done quite a few. I've done Europeans. But nonetheless, he's saying Diana of Ephesus had Negroid features, the black Isis had Negroid features, and we already showed you the Buddha, right? Now let's go to another person by the name of Achilles Tatius from 2nd century BC. He was a Roman era Greek writer, all right? His name was Achilles Tatius. We're going to go to his book, self-titled, page 155. He's also going to let you know that the Indians at that time of the 2nd century BC were Indians, okay? Or, excuse me, that the Indians at that time in India were so-called black. We're going to go through here. The herdsman, this page 155 of his self-titled book, Achilles Tatius. The herdsman cried the skipper and tried to put the boat about and sail back, but already the place was full of terrifying savage men, all tall, dark colored. Yet not, now watch this, yet not absolutely black, like an Indian. So he's saying that all the Indians are absolutely black, and he's trying to say they weren't as black as Indians, but they're more like a bastard Ethiopian. What is a bastard Ethiopian? That would mean a mixed race, a hybrid Ethiopian, is what he was saying. But he's letting you know that the Indians of his time were absolutely black, dark skin, black complexion. Okay? Now we're going to go through another book by Marco Polo. Marco Polo was a merchant. All right? He was born in the 1200s. September 5th, 1254. Died in the 1300s. Now, Marco Polo also wrote about the Indians in India. This is the original text. I just wanted to include it. And this is page 400 of his book. All right, what was his book titled? Marco Polo, The Description of the World. By the way, if you want to pick up this book with this text, it's the A.C. Moulet and Paul Pillet version. The other versions try to omit what was stated. But anyway, let's go to here. Page 400, we're going to go down to the highlighted portion. It states, "For when boys or girls are born in this province, you must know that they are born black. They are born black." Right? And the province he's talking there, he's in India. "But not so black as they are made afterwards." So they are born black, and they're actually made even more black. And he's going to go through the process on how. But anyway, let's keep reading. 1 second. "Because it is true that when an infant is born, he is born fair." Yeah, that's right, because when people are born, they're usually born lighter complexion. "But they anoint him once every week with sesame oil, and that is how they make them become more black than they were born a great deal." So they make them even blacker than they already were. This was a custom that they did, which is the complete opposite of how people, how people bleach their skin. At this time period, people were putting on oils to make them look even blacker than they already were, which is the complete opposite of the bleaching skin thing, which shows you, But he's going to go into why they were doing that. "So that they become as black as a devil. For I tell you that in that country, he who is more black is more precious than the others in beauty." So black was beautiful at that time, which it still is, but I'm talking about culturally, it was beautiful. "And is held better than the others who are not so black." All right, so people were striving to get that super dark complexion. Okay? And he also says what? They say that the God and all his saints are black, and that the devils are white. So white devil. But yeah, once again, get this version if you want that. But anyway, let's get to the next book. But that right there tells you the so-called Indians were black. Okay? We're gonna keep going. This is a book by Frederick J. Simmons, titled "Plants of Life, Plants of Death." Plants of Life and Plants of Death by Frederick J. Simmons. Highlighted portion. In any case, the association of black sesame, and I remember, these people were getting painted with black sesame oil, all right, with sesame oil. And he's going into this as well, the Indians. In any case, the association of black sesame with Sani in some places is especially appropriate. Sani is an inauspicious deity who is referred to as dark and evil-eyed. And he is ordinarily depicted as dressed in black or dark blue. We're going to go into that in a minute, the black and blue. And this is in South India. The black crow represents Sani. All right? And crow is a racial term for a so-called black man, by the way. But this is Sani. You can see that he's depicted as black. And when he isn't depicted as black, he's depicted as dark blue. Now, speaking of blue, right? This is etymology. The term etymology means origin of the word. All right? Now, we're going to go to the etymology of the word Negro. Negro means black skin, race of Africa, black. Blackamoor. But another word for a Negro is a blue man. Okay, so blue man can also refer to a black man. So the deity is either black or blue. But we're going to go more, right? We're going to go to the Oxford Lexicon. Blue man means a black man, an African. Blow man. Middle English dictionary entry. Blue man, a blackamoor or a Negro. So the blue man and the black man are synonymous. This is a book called A History of the Middle Ages, John M. Riddle, page 219, which states, thwarted in Muslim Spain, the Vikings raided the shores of northern Africa where they rounded up large numbers of what they called blue men and black men. So they were gathering blue men and black men, once again interchangeable. Okay, going back to the book of Anacalypsis, it states, page 480, this is very remarkable, as it was the capital of the Cushites or Ethiopians. But the Latos of the Nile and Ganges was, I believe, dark blue, which sometimes was the color of Krishna, but he was often as black as blue. So Krishna was often as black as blue. Okay, and we know that the blue man is the black man. And just for point of reference, these are these other fake deities. This is the blue skinned version of the goddess Kali. This is the black skinned version. This is a fake deity in Japan by the name of Akala, spelled A-C-L-A. Wait, hold on. Spelled A-C-A-L-A. Akala. And he's depicted as blue or black. This was a documentary I watched. I can't remember what it was off of, but these were the monks. I believe they were Shaolin monks. And as you can see, the paintings in the background, which I'm actually going to zoom in on, you can see that they were dark-skinned people. Okay? Just wanted to touch in on that. And these people right here are known as the San people. Notice their features. All right? Notice the features of the San people, which I believe they're located in southern Africa. Yep. The San people, right? Now look at them. Well, don't you know that they say that East Asia get their genes from Africa 35,000 to 89,000 years ago? I do not believe that number. But they're saying that their genes were found in Africa. And if I were a betting man, I bet you they got their genes from here. All right? Which means what? More than likely, these are the original Moabites. All right? Here's more pictures of the San people. Look at that. All right? Clear as day what their features resemble. But they have black people hair. All right? I might do a video on the Moabites at some point in time. This is another ogre-like deity. I think it also might be a Kala. I can't remember. But look, he's depicted as black. He's also got the Bantu-looking knots. He's also depicted as blue. Yeah, all right, and we already know that the black man is blue. Let's go back, prove that. Blue man, a blackamoor or a Negro. In Egypt, they had blue gods, Amen, Happy. All right, they're all fake deities because we all know that there's only one true God, which is the Most High Yahawah. But nonetheless, their depictions, they're depicted as blue. We know that blue is black. Okay, and in particular, this horned cow goddess, I believe it. What is it? I can't remember. Is it Hathor? I don't remember. But anyway, I did a video 2 videos before this titled "Moro was Black" about the horned person. And the word Moro literally means black. All right, and once again, there's a picture of Buddha. There's this guy. We're gonna scroll on down. We already dealt with that. Now back to the word Bantu I was going to, right? To this very day, there's a group of so-called Negroes in India by the name of the Sidi people or the Sidi people. The Sidi people. The Sidi people, also known as the Shidi or Sidi or Sidhi or Habshi, are an ethnic group inhabiting India and Pakistan. They are primarily descended from the Bantu peoples. And the Bantu people, for those of you who don't know, the Bantu people are Israelites. The majority of the Bantu people in Africa, I believe it's in Western Africa, Western and South Africa, Western Africa and parts of South Africa, the Bantu people are in fact Israelites. But might do a video on that another day. You guys can look that up on your own. But so the Sidi people are descendants from the Bantu peoples of the Zanj coast of Southeast Africa and Ethiopia, most whom arrived to the Indian subcontinent through the Arab slave trade. So they say that most of them came there through the Arab slave trade. It's possible, or could they be the Negroes that they were talking about in those books that were preeminating in India? You know. And the Bantu people also came on America through slave ships. Makes me think of Deuteronomy 28. But during the course of the slave trade, more than 12 million more Africans were enslaved, and Bantus made up 35% of that enslaved population. All right, so the Bantu peoples also went to the Americas. All right, generic history of the Bantu people going to the transatlantic slave trade. Here are more pictures of the Sidi people. As you can see, they look like so-called black people. All right, the Sidi people. And they are oppressed in India, by the way. Here's more pictures of the Sidi people. Right? And just to give you guys a little thing on the statements I made about the Bantus being Israelites. The Bantu language is actually very similar to the Hebrew language. This is the Hebrew word, which means finished, right? Now look, kala in Hebrew and kala in Kikongo, which is a Bantu dialect. Kataf to mean cut, and kata. All right, kataf, kata. Takaf. They both mean harden in those different languages. Labab over there. All right, and they mean the same thing, labab. But and then the Bantu language for the word son, the Hebrew word for the word son is ben. The Bantu word is bana. All right, so y'all can look more into that on your own, but just wanted to add to that. All right, and even in the Democratic, like I said, the key Congo language, right? So the Democratic Republic of Congo are acknowledged as Israelites. All right, it says, according to the Kabuka, one of the leaders of the Jewish community, members of the Luba tribe are the Jews of the Congo. Though it is the largest tribe and millions of Luba people are aware of their Jewish roots, most feel disconnected and fearful of diving into their own heritage. Yeah, why is that? Because there's a group of people that are occupying their heritage. All right. But anyway, going back to the Sidi people, and the Bantu people are Israelites, by the way. Going back to the Sidi people, that fulfills prophecy because according to the scriptures, according to Isaiah 11:11, the Most High was going to pull a remnant of our people up out of Elam. All right, Elam is modern day India, Iran, and that region. All right, and let's get that in Isaiah 11:11. In Isaiah 11:11, it says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people." All right, recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. So, and from Elam is the focus of this video, right? So you have Israelites over there, and I just located some of them. They're known as the Sidi people. Okay? And speaking of the term Indian, did you know that the N-word, that the infamous N-word, all right, the nigger, is a word that was also applied to Indians? Let's prove that. This is a book titled The Facts on the Encyclopedia of Words and Phrase Origins. Shout out to Kurameo Ahau. And this is the N-word. It says N-word when used by a white person to describe a black or African American person, right? The N-word has also been an offensive derogatory term applied to Indians as well as blacks up until recent times. So Indians were also called the N-word. Okay? Let's go get a painting real quick. This is an ancient Indian cave painting, 200 BC to 600 AD. They're known as the Ajanta cave paintings. All right? Look at the so-called black people depicted in the Ajanta cave paintings. Okay, and just to prove that Elam is from India, the modern Elamites, Elam, India. All right, Elamite was an ancient civilization centered in the far west and the southwest of modern day Iran. All right, or Iran, stretching from the lowlands, what is now Khuzestan and Elam province, as well as small part of Iraq. Elamite states were among the leading political forces of the ancient Near East. All right, the Elamites. All right, even right here you can see the ancient Elamites were so-called black as well, and they've been modernized. We'll get to how they look like this now. We'll get to that in a minute, towards the end of this video, really. But yeah, and the original Elamites, were also so-called black-skinned people. And just one of them are known as the Dravidians. All right, the Dravidian peoples. The Dravidians, you can see that they're dark skinned with the wavy looking hair. All right. Those are the Dravidians, the actual Elamites. All right. And just to prove that the Dravidians are Elamites, they have something known as an Elamo-Dravidian language. Elamo-Dravidian, you can see the province. This is India. Elamo-Dravidian. All right, Elamo coming from Elam, Elam of the Bible. All right, Elamo-Dravidians, South Asia, Southeast Asia, mainly South India and Sri Lanka. They're known as the Dravidians. These are more pictures of the so-called black Indians of India, the Dravidians. Okay, I believe these people are in Iran. I mean, look how black they are in complexion, right? Now back to the N-word, the etymology of the word of the N-word. N-word, see, Negro, black. The N-word was also applied by English colonists to dark-skinned native peoples in India, Australia, and Polynesia. All right, which lets you know that the people in India, Australia, and Polynesia were all black complected, because the N-word literally means black. Okay, and though it's derogatory, it originally just meant black, but it's become derogatory. And the N-word is also in the Bible. I'll get to that in a minute. All right. And the term nig is abbreviated form of the N-word, which was also applied to Indian natives. All right, and then let me say this too. So what do you think that means when they talk about the North American Indian? Why are they called Indians? Remember, allegedly they say that Christopher Columbus thought that he had landed in India when he saw these people, and he dubbed them Indians. Well, we know that the original Indians from India are so-called black. So what was he really saying? But anyway, Indian natives seem to have been used as black, the N-word, applied to people of India. Okay? And the N-word is a hateful slur to African Americans. All right, N-word refers to a black person. A racist word for a black person. Now, the N-word is actually in the Bible. It's in Acts, the 13th chapter, in the first verse, where it states, "Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon, that was called Niger." But you're going to find out that this word Niger is not actually how you pronounce it. And Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. All right. And the Eastern Bible Dictionary tells you that the term Niger means black. A surname of Simon. He was probably so called for his dark complexion. So he was black complected. Okay. The term Niger. This is the Greek word right here. The term Niger. Niger equals black. Surname of the prophet Simon. Black. Niger. All right. Black. Niger. A prophet. All right, in order to be a prophet, that means he was what? He was an Israelite. Okay? But like I told you, it's actually not pronounced Niger. Look, this is the actual pronunciation. The actual pronunciation of it's not Niger, it's Niger. All right, Niger. You see that? And this is the etymology of the word Niger, which is an African nation, by the way. To now it's an African nation. It's an African nation, and it's the word Niger, which is really Niger, is Latin for the word black. Okay? So yeah, the N-word is actually in the Bible, for those of you that don't know. Now I know what you're thinking. All right, I done already went through all this. So someone will say, well, what happened? Why is let's lock you in 1 second. What happened? Why is India look the way it looks now? Well, a series of things happened. Okay? First of all, the Roman Empire occupied India. They made settlements in Muzrais and Arakmedu. They made things in there, all right? The Romans did. And for those of you who don't know, the Romans are so-called white people, which in the Bible they would be known as the Edomites. Let's prove that they are, in fact, the Edomites. Let's prove that. I did not mean to do that. But let's prove that the Romans are the Edomites, according to the Bible. We're going to go to 1 Samuel 15 and 3. We're going to do this whole thing. Get off my computer. Moth. Go fly away on somebody else's clothes. But 1 Samuel 15 and 8. All right. It says, and he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. So Agag was the king of the Amalekites. Amalek is a grandson of Esau. All right, you learn that in Genesis. All right, so Agag is the king of the Amalekites. Now you go to Esther 9 and 24. It says, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them and had cast Pur, that is the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. So Haman, the son of Hammedatha, was an Agagite. Agag was the king of the Amalekites, meaning what? Hammedatha was an Agagite. Okay? Now you go to Editions of Esther 16 and 10. It says, for Ammon, a Macedonian, the son of Hammedatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us. So Haman was an Agagite. An Agagite is an Amalekite, and an Amalekite is the grandson of Esau. But it tells you in addition to Esther that Ammon actually was a Macedonian, which means what? The Amalekites are, which means that the Macedonians are Amalekites. And they were estranged from the Persian blood, all right? Meaning they were of a different race, of a different lineage. And that's who? Ammon, all right? Ammon was an Agagite, which is really a Macedonian, which is really an Amalekite. And you know who else was an Amalekite? Alexander, because Alexander, the son of Philip, Alexander the Great, they say, he was also a Macedonian. 1 Maccabees 1 and 1. And it happened after that. Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chedum, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. So that's when so-called white people made it into the area of Greece. All right, the Amalekites, Macedonia. We know that this is Alexander the Great. So the Romans and the Macedonians and the Hellenistic Greeks, they are all Idumeans. They are Edomites. All right, and the Macedonians were the Amalekites. Alexander the Great, king of Macedonia. 356 BC born, all right? Died 323 BC. That proves that, right? And that means what? That the Romans were also the Edomites. Rome, for those that know, this is a book titled Dictionary of Judaism in the Biblical Period. Shout out to Council of the Wise. Dictionary of Judaism in the Biblical Period. It says Edom. Edom is compared to a pig and to an eagle, as is Rome and Edom. Seir and Esau are all symbols for Rome, which means what? That the Romans are the Edomites. They are the descendants of Esau. All right, so going back to what I said, so the Romans had occupied India, meaning what? They had interbred with the Indians, lightening them up. But there's another invasion that happened. You have what's known as the Turks in India. The Turks also invaded India. All right, the Arab and Turkish invasion in India. All right, and the Turks were, at least the Turks at this time, were Caucasian Muslims. All right, Indo-Turkic people. There's a people known as the Indo-Turkic people, the Turk invaders. All right, here are some pictures of the Caucasian Turks. Okay, which this lets you know how these North Indian man look like this, but a South Indian man looks like this. How a North Indian woman looks like this, but a South Indian woman looks like this. Well, when you combine the Turk invasion as well as the Roman invasion, and we're going to get to another way how they look, the way they look with lighter complexions as well. All right. They also have a lot of things where Guardian News and Media Limited, it says, India's unfair obsession with lighter skin. They lighten their skin. They bleach their skin. Has skin whitening in India gone too far? All right. They whiten their skin. New ad guidelines change India light skin obsession. European and American albino cosmetic companies and Indian Albinos teach her that in order to be beautiful and acceptable, she must lighten their skin. Show you that it's reversed. Remember I showed you earlier in this segment how Marco Polo said that the blacker someone was, the more beautiful they are. Well, now, because the devil is in charge, it's the opposite. All right? But yeah, they bleach their skin. In order to be beautiful, you have to bleach your skin and become whitenized. Okay? India's fair skin business is booming. Indians obsessed with fair skin. All right? And so-called fair skin, I don't like using the term because the real word fair means beautiful. It doesn't mean white complexion like they tell you today, but whatever. Look, almost 90% of Indian girls cite skin lightening as high needed. So that means 90%. So you would wonder why people of India don't look like this anymore. Well, not only have they been intermixed with the Romans and the Turks, which were Idumeans, 90% of them use skin whitening products. All right, which is actually not good for your. Can actually cause problems like I believe diabetes and liver failure. But and just to say this too, it's not just in India where they whiten their skin. They do it in Nigeria. 77% of women in Nigeria whiten their skin with bleach creams. Okay, Jamaica, 2.8 million Jamaicans bleach their skin. Okay. It's a problem everywhere. All these people are trying to look like the so-called white man. All right, the celebrities. Look at the celebrities. All right, Lil Kim. Look at all these people. You know, they all lighten their skins. What's his name? Sammy Sosa, the baseball player. All right, look at that. He lightened his skin. I believe that he's from the. I believe he's the Democratic. He's from the Dominican Republic. I believe. If I'm wrong or mistaken. Look at Michael Jackson, even though they allege he had vitiligo. Maybe he did, but look, whitened skin. All right, yeah. So the bleach skin thing is an epidemic everywhere, man. But and even in China, they have fear of getting dark skin, so they walk around like this, looking like damn villains from Power Rangers, looking like Power Ranger villains. All right. And look, these are some people of Japan, right? In the 1800s, 1870, people of Japan. But look, though there's people of Japan, and here's also some pictures of Ainu people in 1840, darker skinned. This is a picture of an Ainu person, right? So you have these people of Japan, but how does Japan depict themselves in media? Well, when you watch an anime show, they don't have Asian features. All right, they look like so-called white people. All right, Google, why do Japanese wear white makeup? Answer, in Japan, beauty was long accepted with a light skin tone. All right, in 700 AD. All right, painted their face white. All right, so how do they depict themselves in media? Well, Goku speaks Japanese but has blonde hair and green or blue eyes. Naruto has the blonde hair, blue eyes. So that's how they depict themselves, which follows after a scripture. They all want to follow after Babylon. They all want to follow after the so-called white man. All right, Jeremiah 51:7. Since Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Yeah, the nations are out of their damn minds, bleaching their skin and wanting to be like somebody with recessive genes, but that's the reality. All right, Revelations 14:8 touches on that as well. Revelations 14:8, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornications. So all these nations have drunk the philosophies and doctrines of the so-called white man. Revelations 13:3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wandered after the beast. The beast that's deadly wound was healed was the Roman Empire. Yes, the Roman Empire had failed, and it was revitalized as America, Europe, etc. The Roman Empire, because why? They're the descendants of the Idumeans. The Romans were ruled by so-called white people, at least the 12 Caesars were, and so was America. America's ruled by so-called white people. But to prove that even more, people say, what do you mean? It says Babylon. Well, the new Babylon is ran by the Edomites. Let's prove that in Psalms 137:7. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. All right, so the children of Edom. But we're going to find out that the children of Edom have another name. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Happy shall it be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. So the children of Edom are also known as the daughters of Babylon. So in Revelations, where it talks about Babylon, it's talking about the daughter of Babylon, which is ruled by the children of Edom. Okay? And the daughter of Babylon is mentioned in Isaiah 47:1. The daughter of Babylon is also mentioned in Jeremiah 50:42, Jeremiah 51:33, and Zechariah 2:7. The daughter of Babylon. We know that all these instances, the daughter of Babylon are the children of Edom. All right. We know that the Romans are Edomites, according to the Dictionary of Judaism in the biblical period. Edom, Esau are symbols for Rome. Okay. So, in conclusion, I don't know which thumbnail I'm going to use yet. I like both these arts I made. But anyway, in conclusion, yeah, India was black. All right. So hopefully that lesson was edifying. And with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, the Most High Yahawah, in the name of His only begotten Son, yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, who is commonly known as God. Yahawashi is the Savior of the nation of Israel, who is commonly known as Jesus Christ. I want to say shalom, which means peace, to you people listening and learning, to you elders that's been doing this thing before me, and to you brothers that's doing this work in truth and in sincerity. All right, I'm going to keep doing these videos, man, and showing people the ancient peoples, man. You know? And yeah, India was black, and there's more to come. I got one going on with the Phoenicians, and we'll get that all set up. It takes me a while to do these videos because I like being thorough, man. But not to keep y'all very much more. I'm just gonna say shalom, peace. Go. All right.